Welcome to episode 2 of Beginner Magic. Today we'll be talking about cards. Now just like episode 1, we're not going to teach any specific tricks. This video will teach you moves and sleights that you can use to build other routines. So the first move I'm going to teach is called the double lift or the double turnover. The double lift or double turnover should simply look like you're taking a card, flipping it over to display it, and then you're flipping it back. That's all. But what you actually did was flip 2 cards over. So the top card is not the one they saw. It's the second card that they saw. But it should feel and look natural. So it's a flip over, show it, flip it back. First, you have the get ready. You have to get a pinky break under 2 cards. And that's pretty easy to do while you're talking about the trick or you're getting prepared. With your thumb, you're going to peel back 1, 2 cards just like this. And you put your pinky under it. And now you're ready to do the trick. With your thumb, you're going to slide across like this to straighten the cards up, and then with your index finger you will rotate the card around, and you're flipping 2 cards now to look like one again. There's 2 cards here. Flip it back, and you use these fingers to kind of straighten it up so they don't notice there's 2 cards. And now you can talk and do whatever you want. They think this is 1 card when it's really another card. This also works with 3 cards. If you want to do a triple turnover, you had a reason to do that. So the same thing. You'll get your get ready, except you count 3 cards instead of 2. Put your pinky under there, and from the front, you're good to go. You're talking, you're doing your thing, and then you just flip 3 cards over. I'm straightening it up immediately with my other fingers so that the audience would never notice. Now you flip 3 cards back, and again, don't worry about on the side view here, they can notice there's like a bunch of cards because you're going to do this part pretty quick. Right? You're talking, you're moving around, you flip it back, you put it down. Now you're 2 cards ahead. You can get rid of this card and this card. That's the one they saw. You'll use this move anytime you want to hide the card that you're moving around. So the ambitious card routine, for example, where the card keeps jumping to the top. This is a great way to do it. So you show the 9 of hearts, you take it here, you're going to deal it onto the table, you're going to dribble the rest of the cards on top, and then magically the 9 comes back to the top. And this could be a signed card because it really is the same card. Some things that I've seen other magicians do that I just don't agree with. They try to do these fancy moves, and a double turnover is supposed to not be seen. It's not like you're doing some flourish where you want them to see, oh, I have the skill, or you know, oh, check out this cool fan I can do. Like, that's not what this is about. This is about doing something that's supposed to look completely natural, but it's not natural. You'll see some magicians do this move where they slide it up and flip it over, and then they start doing, you know, these things, and they're showing it all. And you know, you can do that. It is 2 cards. You can do that. You grab it in the corners and flip it around, and you're getting all fancy with it. If you start doing these fancy flip overs and you're spinning it around, the audience is going to feel like, well, like, why are you trying so hard to prove to me that that's just 1 card? Is there something wrong with the card? It's going to draw attention where you don't want attention drawn. So look, it's just my preference, but I feel like it should just be nice and simple. Flip it over, show it, get rid of it, and move on to the next thing. It's a move. It's not something you want the audience to see. Another mistake that I see magicians making all the time is that they do their get ready and they get their pinky break under and they hold it like this. They're holding it super tight and it looks awkward because their hand is awkward. And you can see there's a bump under the card. It's obvious their pinky's hidden under there. It just doesn't feel or look natural. You want to think of this as getting a break over 50 cards rather than a break under 2 cards. Just pull down on the other cards so that the top 2 cards are flat and even, and from the top it'll look normal. Second dealing is another way to control the top card, and it should look like you're just dealing cards onto the table, just like you normally would. And practice doing it that way so you get used to the motion. How do your hands move, right? You move this hand together, you grab the card, you drop it, just like this. You want to make sure that you understand what your natural motion looks like, so when you switch to second dealing, you're going to feel and look the same way. So now you've got this card on top and you want to control it and keep it there. This is called a strike second. You're going to pretend you're grabbing this card, but you're going to grab the next one. You strike it with your thumb. That's why it's called a strike second. So it's deal, pull your thumb back. Deal, pull your thumb back. You don't want what I just did, is the second card to stick, right? So you don't want it to come out like this because that's obvious what just happened, right? So you want to use your index finger to kind of control that third card as you deal the second card. So it's across, deal, and in regular motion it should look like this. Now, there are much fancier and harder ways to do a second deal that look 100 times better than what I'm teaching right now. This is the basics of second dealing. One thing you don't want to do, and you'll see magicians doing this sometimes, and it's the dead giveaway, is they roll their hand back too far. So they're trying to hide this motion of grabbing the second card. So instead of just dealing forward and doing it, you'll see them rock their hand back to deal. And when they rock their hand back, they're trying to hide the fact that they're grabbing this, but you know, who really deals like this? If I was actually going to deal and I started doing this, you'd be like, what's going on, right? It just looks weird. It does help to hide the move, but like it's unnecessary. No one's looking for the move. So just be confident in it, practice it. Now we're going to talk about some shuffle controls. So let's say you've controlled the card that you want to the bottom of the deck, and you want to keep it there, but you want to be able to shuffle the cards in a way that looks natural and still retain that card on the bottom of the deck. So what you'll do is you'll let the pads of these fingers kind of hold on to this card. So as you're doing your shuffle, you're going to grab a chunk of cards, leaving that card there. So if you could see that, grab these cards, grab a big chunk, leaving that card, and then you're going to just let them fall in chunks on top of the deck. And you do this a couple of times. Looks pretty natural, but you're not losing that card on the bottom. This is one of my favorite false cuts because it looks pretty simple and natural. It looks like I'm just cutting the deck, cut, right, like I'm doing. But actually what I'm doing is when I go to take the first chunk, I'm not taking the top, I'm taking the bottom half and dropping it. So it's that simple. It's just boom, boom, looks like I cut the deck. Now, to make it more convincing, you can straighten up the bottom of the deck on top of the top. So like this, you take it, just put it over the top and drop it. It looks very convincing, but you have not moved that card. What I'm doing is I'm cutting the first bottom chunk to the top, and then I keep my thumb here to keep a little break. So that now the next batch goes on top, and I still have my thumb break, and then the last batch goes right back on top. That was the top batch. If I do it separate like this, so if I take this chunk and I put it, this is the bottom of the deck, and I put it here, and then I take this chunk, this was on top of that, that's going to go there, and then this is what's on the bottom, and I put it right back on top. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just doing it while it's covered so they can't see it. And then if you start doing it in faster motion, it's nearly impossible to track. Another one of my favorite false cuts looks a little fancier, and it takes a little bit of work, but it's not that hard. So here's what it looks like. Cut, you're doing a triple cut. And so it's cut, cut, and that is a false cut. And basically all we're doing is taking the top part of the deck, then the middle part of the deck, holding it here, and then the bottom part of the deck, and then putting the bottom back on the bottom, the middle back in the middle, and the top back on top. It looks a little confusing because we are changing the order and then putting it back. Your middle finger is holding the whole deck, and then your index finger swivels about a third of the deck off. So it's going to look like this. Grab it, you're going to squeeze it here between your thumb and your index finger of your other hand, and then you completely separate. Then with your index finger, you're going to grab the next third of the deck, put it on top of that first batch. Now, notice what I do with these fingers. I'm going to kind of block so these don't stack on top of each other. So I'm going to just grab it here. So I have a second packet there that I'm kind of keeping separated, and I'm immediately going to drop this deck, the bottom, and then grab the next batch, which was the middle, and put it back, and the top back on top. So look at that again. It's catch, separate, catch, kind of pushing it past the top of the other one so it doesn't accidentally kind of match up, and then immediately drop, drop, drop. And then a little bit faster, and then regular motion, it's just, and then you square up the deck. This is one of my favorite moves to do when I'm asking a spectator to cut the deck and I want them to get to a specific spot. So let's just say I wanted the 10 of diamonds to be on top, and I've controlled it there, but the audience doesn't know that. Now what I'm going to do is allow them to cut the deck, and then allow a second person to cut the deck. And a lot of times it's just going to work. They're going to cut the deck, and it's going to come right back to that card. What I did was, once I had the card on top of the deck, I put a little crimp, and it's just tiny, tiny, tiny. You're just going to bend it, and I'm going to over-exaggerate it here just to show you. You're going to bend that bottom card just a little bit, and that's way more than you have to. So you've got this tiny crimp now at the bottom, and once the deck is cut the first time, it's in the middle, and it's created this little break between cards. And people don't notice it, but if they're not thinking and they just go to cut the deck, their fingers slide up on it, and a lot of times they'll just grab the card and put you right back where you want it. But let's say they didn't cut to the right spot, and I can see that from where I am because I'm looking and I see there's still a little break there, so I know they didn't get the right spot. So it's pretty simple. I can either let them cut again, or I can just simply cut and I know what I'm feeling for, so I can get there every single time. Now that you've learned these beginner moves and cards, I encourage you to practice them and then put them together into a routine. A double lift by itself is not a trick. To just go like this, and then go like this, and then snap your fingers and change the card, that's not a trick. It's pretty obvious what happened. People are going to figure it out. The goal is to be prepared ahead of time and know what you're going to do with the cards, but make the audience think that you're making it up as you go. But if you can just naturally play with the cards while you're talking to them, and you're doing some false cuts and they don't realize it, and you're just talking, now it looks natural and it feels natural, and they think you shuffle the deck. Meanwhile, you have all the cards exactly where you want them, and you can do whatever trick you're going to do. Thank you for watching. I appreciate the support. And if you don't mind, could you please give us a like and share this video with your friends?